You know that feeling you get really early in the morning?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about that very specific, very narrow window of time. Maybe it's 5:40 or 6:00 a.m.
Right, before the emails start pinging.
Exactly. Before the kids wake up, before the world actually demands anything of you. It's like this heavy silence.
It really is a rare commodity these days.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, for a lot of people, that silence is actually kind of uncomfortable.
Which is exactly where I wanted to start this deep dive today. Usually, I'm just trying to get coffee into my system to survive the coming onslaught of the day.
Just fueling up for the chaos.
Right. But the source material we're covering today suggests that brief morning window isn't just quiet time, it's actually a diagnostic test.
A diagnostic test. I like that framing.
Yeah, it suggests that if you're honest with yourself in that silence, you can actually hear what matters. And if you can't sit in it without, reaching for your phone, you might have a structural problem.
It's a bold opening for the source to make. It immediately sets the stakes for you as the reader.
It really does. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really profound piece of writing titled The Architecture of a Meaningful Life.
And the core argument here is that modern life is designed engineered, really to keep us reactive, shallow, and perpetually looking outward.
The source calls it a noise architecture.
Right. And if the default architecture of modern life is designed to keep us shallow, then the counter-argument and the premise of this entire deep dive is that we have to actively dismantle that noise and build something sturdier.
We're not looking for meaning like it's a lost set of keys.
No, you're building a structure that could actually withstand a storm.
I love that distinction so much. It's not a scavenger hunt, it's construction work. And we have the blueprints right here in this text. We're going to walk you through this architecture of a meaningful life from the foundation all the way up to the roof.
We're talking about stillness, silence, a code of ethics, purpose, and eventually the hearth of love.
And it all starts with a Spanish proverb that the source opens with, a mal tiempo, buena cara.
In bad weather, a good face.
Yeah. But as we'll see today, that is not about faking a smile.
Or toxic positivity.
Right. It's about having a structure that is strong enough that you don't need to panic when the rain starts. It's about confidence in your construction.
So let's grab our hard hats.
Let's do it. Let's start at the very bottom. The foundation. The source calls this stillness and inner sovereignty.
And it uses an example that I think every single listener will remember vividly, maybe even with a shudder. The year 2020.
The lockdown.
Yeah, the lockdown. It's interesting because the source reframes that entire experience. We usually think of it in terms of fear or grief or the logistics of it all. But the source points out that alongside all that, people were forced into stillness.
The plans dissolved, the noise just stopped.
Right.
I remember that vividly. It was eerie, but there was this moment where you realized, oh, I have to sit with myself now. There is nowhere to go to escape my own head.
Precisely. And for many people, that was terrifying. But the source argues that this forced quiet proved what the Stoics guys like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Cato have been saying for 2,000 years.
The most important work happens inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you haven't built inner sovereignty, external silence is deafening.
Right. And when they say sovereignty, they aren't talking about kingdoms or politics.
No, think of it as authority, self-rule. It doesn't matter if the world is ending outside your window. Do you have command over your own mind?
The Stoics didn't preach running away to a mountaintop to hide.
No, they preach sovereignty over the inner world. Can you stand in the middle of chaos and remain ruled by your own reason?
It reminds me of that story in The Source, The Parable of the Fish by Anthony DeMello. I really love this one because it hits that specific anxiety we all have about finding peace.
Oh, the businessman story.
Yeah, so you have this businessman, probably super stressed out, high blood pressure, the works, and he hears he needs solitude to find peace. So he goes to a master and basically panics.
Right, he says, wait, do I have to quit my job? Do I have to go live in a monastery? I'm like a fish out of water here.
He thinks the environment is the problem.
Exactly. And the master just looks at him and says, no, no. Hold on to your business, but go into your heart.
Go into your heart. That's the key. Stillness isn't a retreat center you visit once a year to recharge so you can just go back to the rat race.
It's the quality you cultivate and then carry into the noise. You take the water with you.
And to show what that looks like in high-stakes reality, the source brings up Zach Johnson. Now, even if you don't follow golf, the pressure here is totally relatable.
It's the 2015 Open Championship at St. Andrews, the home of golf.
The history there is so heavy. It's the 18th hole, major championship on the line. Millions of people watching. The weather is unpredictable. This is the very definition of noise.
And Johnson isn't the biggest guy. He's not the longest hitter on the tour, but he has this foundation.
Right. He wasn't thinking about his swing mechanics in that moment. He wasn't thinking about the trophy or the fame. The source says he was reciting Psalm 27.1 fee. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. We need to look at the actual mechanism here. The scripture didn't make the wind stop blowing.
No, it didn't magically make the other golfers play worse.
It provided an anchor. It shifted his brain from the outcome which causes anxiety to a known truth.
Johnson said the peace that came from that allowed him to play free.
That's the utility of stillness. It's not about zoning out. It's about grounding yourself so deeply that the pressure can't push you off center. That is the foundation of the architecture.
So we had the foundation, stillness. Now we need walls. We need structure to define the space. And the source transitions to something that sounds almost counterintuitive in our modern world, the discipline of silence.
This brings us back to Cato the Younger. He was a Roman politician, a contemporary of Julius Caesar. Now, Rome was a lot like modern society in one specific way. It was a culture of performance.
Oratory was everything.
Right. If you could give a great speech, you owned the room. Social capital was built entirely on noise.
But Cato didn't play that game.
Not only did he not play it, he actively resisted it. The source mentions he was never seen practicing speeches in front of others. He never rehearsed for an audience. In a world of performers, he was a rock.
Which is wild for a politician. That sounds like absolute political suicide.
It does. But his rule was he would only speak when he was absolutely certain that what he had to say wasn't better left unsaid.
Better left unsaid. Imagine if we applied that filter to social media today.
The internet would be a very quiet place. It would be just tumbleweeds.
It really would. But the contrast the source draws here is so sharp. We live in a hot take culture. Something happens, and the pressure is to react instantly. If you don't have an opinion within 5 minutes, you're irrelevant.
Or worse, people assume your silence means you don't care, or that you're complicit. But Cato viewed silence as discipline, not weakness.
Speaking from a place of agitation, reacting just to react is usually a mistake.
Speaking from stillness is powerful. It's the economics of scarcity. If you talk all the time, your words are cheap. If you speak from stillness, your words actually have weight.
It's the idea of alignment. The source brings in BKS Iyengar, the yoga legend. He talked about how alignment of the body leads to alignment of the mind. And the source calls silence alignment applied to speech.
Which implies that speech is a physical act of the will. If you can't control your tongue, you probably can't control your mind.
It's about humility, too. Pausing to ask yourself, might I be wrong? Am I just reacting emotionally right now? Does the world actually need this opinion?
That is a very tough question to ask yourself.
It is, but that's why it's a discipline. It's a wall you build to keep the chaos out.
Okay, but here's the catch. You can't just be silent and still in a vacuum. You have to be still about something. You need a framework.
And this is where the source introduces the code.
Right. If you're building a house, you need studs in the walls. You need rules of engineering. The source points to the Ten Commandments. Now, regardless of your religious background, or lack thereof, the source asks us to look at these not just as religious thou shalt nots, but as an architecture of relationship.
Relationship with what?
With everything. Relationship with truth, with your neighbor, with property, with life itself. Do not kill, do not steal, do not bear false witness. These are principles that simplify a complex world.
I really like the line about simplicity. Because the world is endless complexity, endless shades of gray, every decision feels negotiable.
And that negotiability creates decision fatigue. If you have to debate with yourself every time you face a moral choice, should I lie here, it might be easier. That's exhausting. A code cut through that. It offers a binary.
It's an efficiency hack for the soul.
Exactly. And they offer a direction. There's a great quote from Vince Lombardi in the text. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence.
I've always loved that.
The code works the exact same way. It's a compass. You might not always hit true north perfectly every single day because we're human, but without the compass, you're just wandering in circles. The code gives you a standard to return to when the noise gets loud.
And the source adds a warrior mindset element here too. It says a good life isn't just a quiet one. It's one willing to name and face what is wrong in the world.
Exactly. You can't confront evil or injustice if you don't have a clear definition of what is good and just. If everything is relative, you can't say, this is wrong. The code gives you the authority to say, no, this crosses the line.
So we've got the foundation, which is stillness, and the walls, which are silence in the code. But a building needs a purpose. It needs to be designed for something. Otherwise, it's just an empty shell.
A tranquil, empty shell, a very safe, very boring box.
Right. And to explain how we find this purpose, the source pivots to a fashion icon, Coco Chanel, which I definitely did not expect in a deep dive about stoicism and silence.
It's a fascinating example because she didn't start with a silver spoon. She was an orphan. She had almost zero resources. The world in the early 20th century offered very little to a woman in her position. She had every reason to fail.
So how did she build what she built?
Well, she had a calling, but she also had a strategy. She found Arthur Boy Capel.
He was her lover, right?
He was, but the source emphasizes that he was much more than just a benefactor or a partner. He was a mirror. He offered her tough criticism. He had practical wisdom. He believed in her, yes, but he also pushed her. He helped her sharpen her own intuition.
That's a crucial distinction. Sometimes we look for mentors who just cheerlead. You know, you're doing great, follow your dreams. But she looked for someone who would give her the hard truth.
A cheerleader makes you feel good. A mirror shows you where you're messy. And she didn't stop with him. The source says she built a constellation of purposeful people around her throughout her entire life. She realized she needed to be around people who were doing it.
This connects to that Robert Greene insight the source mentions, the daily law.
Yes. Greene says it's not enough to admire purposeful people from a distance. You can't just follow them on social media or read their biographies. You need proximity. You need to be in the room with them.
Why? Is it just about networking?
It's osmosis. It's mirror neurons. Their energy is contagious. It raises your own standards. It's the idea that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you hang around aimless people, you'll become aimless. If you hang around builders, you'll build.
But there's a trap in expertise, too. You don't want to become so confident that you stop learning. The source balances the Chanel story with Meister Eckhart's advice. Be willing to be a beginner every single morning.
Every single morning. That's humbling.
It is. It prevents the code from becoming arrogance. It means no matter how much you know, you wake up ready to learn something new, you restart the process.
Okay, so we're building this life. We have our code, our purpose, our mentors. But then life happens. The storm hits. The mal tiempo from the proverb.
Structural integrity. This is where the rubber meets the road. The source is very clear here. The natural human instinct is to avoid pain. We want the path of least resistance. We want the building to be comfortable.
Of course, we're wired for safety. But the architecture of a meaningful life requires a stoic turn. It argues that the obstacle isn't just something to survive. It's the fuel.
This is the Marcus Aurelius metaphor of the fire.
Right. If you have a small candle, the wind blows it out. But if you have a roaring fire, the wind fans the flames. A fire doesn't get put out by what you throw into it, it consumes it. It grows higher because of the obstacle.
There's a story in the source about Emperor Hadrian, well, the fictionalized version from Marguerite Yourcenar's novel, that really nails this attitude.
I love this passage. Hadrian describes his practice regarding things that repelled him. If he encountered something difficult or unpleasant, a defeat, a sickness, a betrayal, he made it a subject of study.
He studied his own bad time.
He forced himself to extract value from them. He says that when faced with a hazard, an ambush, a storm, he strove to welcome the hazard.
Welcome the hazard. That is intense. It almost sounds masochistic.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But think about the alternative. The alternative is to be a victim of circumstance, to be crushed every time things don't go your way. Hadrian's approach is pure agency. This is happening, I can't change it. So I will choose to use it. I will let this enlarge me rather than break me.
It's taking agency back. It's saying, okay, this is terrible, but what can I learn? How can this make me stronger?
Exactly. Difficulty is inevitable. Being defeated by it is optional. That is structural integrity.
All right, we've got a very strong structure now. It's disciplined, it's purposeful, it's fireproof. But I have to ask the obvious question. Is it livable?
That is the danger. You can be a stoic Superman, totally disciplined, totally unshakable, and also be incredibly cold. You can be a fortress that absolutely no one wants to enter.
The source calls this final piece the hearth, the center of the home. And that center is love.
There's a quote from Frank William Bourdillon. The light of a whole life dies when love is done. Without love, all this architecture is just performance. It's engineering without any warmth.
To illustrate this, the source tells the story of David Carr. He was a journalist for the New York Times, A brilliant guy, iconic voice, but he had a rough past with addiction. He had been through the fire, and the story is about his daughter, Erin.
Erin was struggling. She was young. She had the beginnings of a drinking problem, bad relationships. She was spiraling. She was moving to London for her first real job, kind of running away, kind of starting over.
And when she lands in London, terrified, feeling like a failure, she opens her email, and there's a letter from her dad.
And this letter, it destroys me every time I read it. He doesn't lecture her. He doesn't give her the code. He writes to her, please understand that you carry with you not only our love and support, but our admiration and pride.
Admiration and pride.
Think about the weight of those specific words.
Mm.
For a kid who is struggling, who feels like a mess, to hear that her father, this giant in her life, admires her, that isn't just a nice sentiment. That is structural. That is bedrock. It grants her status. It grants her dignity.
The source notes that David Carr died way too young, at 58. He collapsed in the newsroom. But that letter remained.
It remained as a foundation she could stand on. When the storm came, and it always comes, she knew she wasn't alone. She carried that love into the difficulty.
That's the distinction the source makes. Love isn't just a sentiment or a nice feeling. It's structural engineering. It holds the person up when they can't hold themselves up.
And that completes the architecture. You have the stillness to know yourself, the silence to speak with intention, the code to guide you, the purpose to drive you, the resilience to face the fire, and the love to make it all worth it.
It really is an interlocking system. You can't pull one piece out without weakening the whole thing. If you have the code but no love, you're a tyrant. If you have love but no stillness, you're anxious and reactive.
Exactly. It's a holistic construction project. Stillness creates the self-knowledge. Self-knowledge leads to the code. The code directs the purpose. Purpose gives you the reason to endure difficulty. And love binds it all together.
So let's circle back to where we started. The early morning, the noise waiting outside, and that Spanish proverb, a mal tiempo, buena cara.
In bad weather, a good face.
After going through all this, I realized that good face isn't about pretending.
No, it's the quiet confidence of someone who's actually done the work. It's looking at the storm and knowing your house is built on rock, not sand. You don't have to be afraid of the bad weather because you have your internal architecture sorted out. You are sovereign.
And the beautiful thing, as the source reminds us, is that this work begins again every single day. We can always start again.
Live full. Die empty. That's the goal.
So here is the question we want to leave you with today. The source asks it, and I think it's the perfect place to stop. If today was day one of building your architecture, if you were laying the very first brick of this meaningful life, what is that first brick?
But to add a layer to that, take a hard look at where you're putting that brick. Are you building on solid ground, or are you just laying a brick on top of someone else's noise?
That's a great point. You have to clear the site first.
Exactly. So what is the first brick, and what soil are you placing it in? Don't wait for the weather to clear up to figure it out.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Take care.